Hi everyone, okay, next part of this extensive review between the JR Touch-Free Quantum and the Vitamix Professional Series 750. So at the start of each section, you can watch this as a snippet. It's all on YouTube. If you're seeing this particular video, look for other videos in this extensive review series, or you can watch the whole video. And if you are doing that at the moment, welcome back to the next part. Right, okay, so in this particular part, we are going to compare between the two. So far, in the previous parts, the Quantum's faring probably better than the Vitamix. In this particular one, we're going to be doing nut butter. A lot of people do use these commercial blenders at home and in the kitchen at work for nut butters. Essentially, you should be able to make a nut butter just by blending the nuts with nothing else. And you can add oils and so on if you want to do that. But if you're really on a healthy eating kick and you just want to make nut butters with only nuts, these machines should be able to do it. So there's a couple of different, there's a couple of major differences actually between the two machines when it comes to making nut butter, and you're going to see how the Quantum really fares. I'm going to say it at the beginning of this, how the Quantum fares much better with the nut butters. First thing is we're going to be using the Quantum's cyclone jar. It's a 1 litre capacity. You have the 2 litre capacity. If you're not seeing any other videos, it comes with a 2 litre capacity jug as standard, but also comes included with the 1 litre capacity cyclone jar, which is just genius for doing this sort of thing. We're going to be using the standard 2 litre jug on the Vitamix. You can get dry grinding, you'd use this jug for this particular task, but you can get dry grinding jugs with the Vitamix, but you're having to pay extra. It's a £650 machine, you have to pay extra for a second jug. £650 machine. Quantum, you get everything. They don't charge you extra, you get everything for that money. So charging extra when you've already paid £650, a bit much in our eyes. So in this particular section, the first thing we're going to talk about is the fact that in the cyclone jar, I've just used a standard bag of cashew nuts. We're going to be doing cashew nut butter, and this is 200 grams. And essentially, if you want to make nut butter at home, 200 gram bag in the cyclone jug is more than enough. However, with the Vitamix, the first negative point, I suppose, is that you have to use the tamper tool to make the nuts, which is fine. That's actually not the negative point because it's actually doable. You can do it that way. If you want to make larger capacity nuts, you can do the same thing with the Quantum in the large jug and the tamper tool in the Quantum. But if you don't want to make 400, 500, 600 grams of nut butter, you just want to do a couple of hundred grams, it's more difficult in the bigger machine or the bigger jugs because you need to put enough nuts in so that the tamper will reach the nuts to push them into the blades. If you've only put one bag in, when we put 200 grams in, the tamper tool would hardly touch the nuts. So you then struggle to actually push them against the blades to move them around. So straight away you're having to spend more money and do bigger batches of nuts. That's fine if you want to do batches, absolutely. You do batches in the Quantum, but if you want to do less quantity, there's not so much scope to do so in the Vitamix. You have to do bigger quantity. So the first thing to note is that you're going to be using the tamper tool with the Vitamix to push them into the blades, and with the Quantum you're going to be using the cyclone jar with this twisting lid, which basically does the movement of the nuts for you just with simple twisting, and it generally makes nuts in a matter of seconds compared to a lot more effort and work in the Vitamix. Again, it depends on which one you prefer really, but we prefer better nuts in less time is our motto, a good motto. So going to get straight on and blend with the Vitamix first to show. I'm doing it one-handed, but basically we're going to be putting it onto variable 1, cranking it up to 10, and just going for it with the tamper for a period of time to see how this fares. So we'll crack straight on and do this now. Right, variable 1. Now at this point, what's actually recommended is it's just starting to turn. That was, I don't know how long that was, I didn't see the timer, but that had to be a minute or so, didn't it? So at this point, what's recommended is that you actually, because what happens is the blades push they're pushing the nuts off to the side, so you get all this section here. So what's recommended is you actually get an implement and just open the lid up and just push them back into the middle, get it off the sides. And I've said it in other videos, I'm using the specially designed, specially shaped spatula that comes with the Quantum. Vitamix don't have one of these, or at least they don't come bundled with the machine, which would have been nice for the money, really. So it's kind of ironic that I'm using an accessory from the Quantum to do a task in the Vitamix. Right, so that's all back into the middle. So that's taken another minute or so. So we put the lid back on, and we'll go again. Make sure the tamper's in, otherwise it's going to fly everywhere. And here we go. Get that going and crank it up. Okay, look, that's another sort of 40 or 50 seconds worth of blending there, so I'd like to think we've got somewhere with that, and I can't stand here and do this all day. So let's see how that goes. Okay, yeah, we're starting to turn into a butter there. So it is starting to turn. Now it's quite thick. It hasn't, you know, realistically, I probably want to drag this back in again. It's a bit thick, it's not very smooth. I can see under the blades, I'll get this out in a sec at the end, but I can see under the blades it's starting to turn smooth, but on the outsides it's not completely smooth as of yet. It's still a bit lumpy and hard. So it's starting to turn, but that's a good minute of blending, then moving into the blades, another minute of blending. I'd probably want to move back into the blades again and go again with the tamper tool. So, but look, it's starting to turn into nuts after sort of 3 or 4 minutes of work and blending. So now we'll just move on to the Cyclone and show you how this one works. So the Cyclone jug on the JR touch-free Quantum. So it's got grinding functions and so on. To make this fair, I'm just going to use it at full speed as I did in the Vitamix. It has got a grinding function that you can use. The grinding function goes for 30 seconds. Generally, it's going to be enough to do your nut butters in these. If it hasn't quite got it, depending on what nut you're using, almonds can be a little bit more difficult for any blender. Because of the skin's a bit more tougher nut. Peanuts are the easiest nut, that would probably only take 20 or 30 seconds. Depending on the nut you're using, if the grinding function preset wasn't long enough, just run it again, go again, or just put it on full speed and go. So make sure the lid's down. This is the twisting arm. Make sure it's down firmly, then that's going to fly up. So if you've got starting it the other hand, just make sure the lid stays on. I'll do it one-handed, so here we go. So let's time this now. I'm going to stop that there. That's only about 30 seconds of blending. So this is 30 seconds. 30 seconds. And you're pretty much there. I could probably go a little longer. It's just gone up the side there. But that is now probably at the texture that's already in the Vitamix, and that took 30 seconds with minimal effort, just twisting a lid. I actually opened it just to look at the texture. I pulled them down. Let's just do it again. Let's do another for another 10 seconds or so. I didn't really need to take that off. I could have carried on twisting them arms. But let's just go again for another sort of 5-10 seconds. Okay, so that was just another sort of 15-20 seconds. So total sort of blending in this one is another sort of 30-40 seconds I've probably done there, 40 seconds or so. So I did about a minute with the tamper tool, stopped, moved the butters in, or the nuts into the blade, then that took another minute or so, then did another minute, so we're talking 3 minutes or so. It's made this sort of texture in here that I would probably like to do another minute of moving into the blades and do another minute blending to see what happens, but I can't just stand here all day. 11 minutes on this video already, stand here all day getting that done. Eventually that would turn into a butter in the Vitamix. This took a total of 40 seconds twisting a lid. And you can see it's already smooth. I mean, you can see that's lumpy after 4 or 5 minutes blending. And that is smooth. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video because I'll do it one-handed, and these nut butters are going to be difficult to get out. And I'm going to scoop this out. I just want to show you that I am getting, maybe I can get a bit out without actually doing it. No, I'll pause the video and I'll get these nut butters out, and I'll put them onto the chopping board and show you the difference in texture. Okay, I've scooped them out of the jugs now. So this is the Vitamix one. This is the Quantum now. This is cashew nuts. So if you a real smooth texture, you could continue to blend for a little bit longer. But cashew nuts have a lower oil content than something like peanuts or something like that. So, I mean, look, if you really wanted a really, really runny nut butter, you could add oil to it, even the Vitamix and so on. Things like peanuts have a higher oil content. So when you do peanuts, you could make a much smoother consistency, I would suspect, in both machines. Cashew nuts, lower oil content. It's not going to be, if you're only blending it with nothing else, just the nuts, you're never in any machine out there. So I'm not comparing the two with regards to whether cashew nuts going to come out like really, really smooth, because unless you add oil to the cashew nut butter, it's not going to do that. But if you're just doing it, you're on sort of a health thing, you don't want to add the oil, and you're making want to make a nut thing. I probably could have made them smoother if I'd have carried on in both. Certainly with a Vitamix, because I was doing it for 4 minutes and stopped because I got bored. I could have done another 2, 3, 4 minutes of blending and probably got a better result. But I want to compare the fact that this took 5 minutes, this took 40 seconds of blending total, 40 seconds. So a massive difference. And the actual result, I want to try and get you to see it. This is just lumpier and more like sort of Play-Doh and crumbly. It hasn't, after 5 minutes, it hasn't started to go smooth. The oils haven't started to release. In the Quantum, it's a lot more like butter. This is cashew nut butter. It's more difficult. It's not an easy one to do. So as cashew nut butter goes, in 35 seconds you could blend for longer in the cyclone jar and get an even smoother consistency. In peanuts and almonds, you're going to get a really smooth consistency. Peanuts especially, you get a really smooth peanut butter in the Touch 3 Quantum. But in this particular test, the Quantum, after only 40 seconds blending, has pretty much made your nut butter. This is just cashews, no added oil, and you can see it. You can actually start to spread that out. But with this one, it's crumbly and lumpy, and that took nearly 5 minutes of blending. So I know this section's been long. Nut butter's quite an extensive sort of section to cover, because a lot of people do like making nut butters in the machine. But I have to say, in this section, comparing the JR Touch 3 Quantum with the Vitamix 750 Pro, doing nut butters, hands down, with that cyclone jar, the Touch 3 Quantum has won this hands down, not only for results, but for the time it takes to do it and ease of use. I haven't had to do anything other than twist a lid. So if you're making nut butters, certainly out of the two top models on the market at the moment, the Quantum would be the one to go for. Okay, thanks very much. Check back for the next section if you're watching the long video, and look for other video snippets if you're watching this as a snippet. Thanks very much, see you soon.